Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. My name is Cindy, and it is June 10th. So, the morning after, we have seen the first presentation from the January 6th committee. They laid out very clearly yesterday not only what the sort of agenda is, but they gave us a really nice overview. A lot of commentators said that it really was set up and presented very, very much like a prosecution. And you know what? It kind of had that feel to it, right? This is what we're going to show you, and this is what we're going to show you. And they laid it out. It's going to, over the next several weeks, this is what we're going to show you. And you know what? I thought they did, frankly, a fabulous job. I think that Liz Cheney really, really rose to the occasion in terms of not only standing incredibly firm and confident, but she just really had that energy of, this is the moral high ground. And if you're not on this level, then eventually it's going to come back and get you. And so I was super impressed. There was a lot of new information that came out that we didn't know. There was, video and Ivanka, of course, saying that she believed Bill Barr when it came to whether or not there was fraud in the 2020 election. And of course, he said it was all BS. Okay. So super interesting. So today, I kind of want to take a look at how it's being received, how this is being received. Is it being received only? Listen, we know the Democrats are watching. We know that the independents are watching. And we know that a significant number, not all by a large shot, but a significant number of more conservative Republicans are watching because there really is a sense that things have gotten kind of so crazy over in Republican town that there needs to be some accountability. And so there is that group who is sort of saying enough is enough. Let's see the information. Let's see what's out there and let's take it from there. So this is all very exciting. We've waited a long time, but here we are. So I want to see how this is being received by the extreme right wing. Okay, and listen, the reality is probably 2% of them actually bother to watch it, and I suspect any of the others and absorb it. And I think any of the others who were watching it just did it so they could scream at their television. Come on down. So I'm going to check out just sort of a general overview of how this information was received by the GOP, by the Trumpers, and by Trump, of course, because his daughter threw him under the bus. I guess a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. Come on down. Okay, here we go. January 6th, GOP received. January 6th, GOP received. January 6th, GOP received. So the really interesting thing, of course, is that we know that aside from a handful or so of, real Trump people, we know that the vast majority of Republicans in Congress know that this is a big fat lie on the whole nonsense about, the election being stolen. But they are, making a political calculation that if they want to salvage their careers and survive on the political scene, they kind of have to go along with this. I don't know. I somehow have a feeling that ultimately that may very well backfire. as I was watching it last night, one of the messages or energy imprints, if you will, that I got was that by the time this is said and done, you are going to have Democrats and independents um, chomping at the bit to get to the election so they can vote, because by the time it's all said and done, there's going to be so much information, such an abundance of information, new information, clarity on stuff that we've known for a while, but somehow you kind of couldn't fit the pieces of the puzzle together. So as more and more and more comes out, and again, it's being put together in a really kind of cohesive way, they are going to go through not only what happened on January 6th, but they're also going to look backwards and forwards. Well, okay, from the election, they're going to look backwards, and from the election, they're going to look forward. And then ultimately, even from January 6th, they're going to look forward. And so there's a whole lot that, man, oh man, we don't know, but it's a coming. There was a lot of frustration and friction because, they kept putting it off and they kept delaying it and they kept delaying it. But, don't lose sight of the fact that this thing was being put together and presented by political animals, okay? They know how politics work in Washington. They know how, things are sort of done. And so by delaying it until June, they have made sure that as you get closer into the fall and, towards November, this information is going to be regurgitated and gone through because it's not just what they present on television. They are then going to be releasing like documents and pages and all the stuff they couldn't fit into, their presentation. And so there's going to be more and more information coming out over the next weeks and months. And that ultimately is going to prove a strength that I don't think the Republicans are going to be able to recover from. So they have a very, very heavy burden. As this is done, the Republicans are going to find it harder and harder to, to continue to mimic the lie, or more importantly, to stay silent on it. And it's aside from those who you couldn't budge off of their belief with a stick of dynamite up their butt, there's going to be cracks and breaks in the Republican Party over this. It's already very clear that Mitch McConnell doesn't like Trump, never liked Trump, doesn't want to see him back in office as a dog catcher, never mind as a president. The other guy, the leader of the House, or the not the leader of the House, the House GOP guy, McCarthy. And he has very clearly decided that he is going to, sacrifice himself on the throne of, Trump. So you're going to see more and more sort of cracking, if you will. It's going to become more and more obvious as not only June continues to roll out, but into, July and August. And those are summer months. Not a lot is going on. But what's going to be going on? The regurgitation of this, the additional information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So over the course of the summer, you are going to see sort of the stuff that we didn't get to see, or more detailed information. I mean, I, for one, want to see more of Ivanka's testimony. That's going to be coming out over the summer months. And so this thing is not going to go away for the Republicans. In fact, if anything, it feels very much like a slow boil. Kind of reminds me of the lobster in the pot, right? Who doesn't, and which, by the way, I think is horrible. But anyways, that doesn't realize the temperature is getting hotter and hotter and hotter until kind of all is lost. So that's what we have here. I also think that there's going to be information coming out about people that we don't have a clue about. We haven't heard them. They haven't been on our radar. Um, but that's also going to be something that is really going to be difficult for the Republicans to, kind of push away, if you will, in part because there's no there, right? I mean, there just isn't. There's no proof. And I heard somebody say this morning, and I think it was actually really smart, that I one of the things that the Democrats should start saying repetitively over and over and over again is, "Where's the proof? Show me the proof. You don't have any proof," because they sort of are like, "Okay, well, we've done this. We've given you all the facts, and like." What we don't want is them to go silent. We want them to continue to plow ahead against the kind of resistance, frankly, that they're going to get from the GOP. And listen, the GOP are not above trickery, deception, diversion. I mean, the United States and the world is finding out exactly how close the United States came to losing its democracy. I would go so far as to say it from the information that's coming out, it seems as if had Mike Pence gotten into that car, the democracy would have been lost because Grassley had already made an announcement the day before that he expected that he would be the one who was counting the votes. So they were fully prepared to get Pence out of the way. So as this is being discovered, and people are horrified, and things are starting to become crystal clear. The GOP is yelling about gas prices. Now listen up. They're horrible, okay? I too have to pay gas prices, and we are sitting, I think, at an average in Canada of about $2, 2.20 a liter. So I don't know. It's just a lot of money, okay? I get it, but you know what? The whole gas situation, that has nothing to do with Biden. If it just had to do with Biden, then only the United States would be paying the outrageous prices. There is nowhere in the planet that isn't paying outrageous prices for gas. Ditto the the goods getting into the stores, right? That kind of thing. It's better than it was, but it's still not great. But they can't blame that kind of stuff on Biden when every other country is experiencing it. So, that's going to be what they're going to be talking about this all summer long, because they're going to be trying to divert your attention. And listen, you know what? In some ways, they have the advantage, because when it comes right down to it, those kitchen table issues are really primary for a lot of people, because it's getting darn uncomfortable trying to figure out how to balance that budget, because everything across the board is becoming more and more expensive. But, somebody needs to take a breath and say, okay, yep, it is. And it's making it really hard. But, if we end up living under an authoritarian government or a dictatorship, it's going to be worse, not better. Because at that point, any riches of the country are going to be directed only in one direction. They're going to be pocketed by the very, very rich, and services that, everybody sort of relies on are going to disappear. So make no mistake, the Republicans have a strategy to get over the next, 8, 12, 16 weeks. I just don't think it's going to be effective against sort of the onslaught of information. And don't forget, there is still, Georgia, there's still Atlantis, there's still New York. There is still more information coming out on top of what we already know now. I think you're going to, as I said a few minutes ago, you're really going to see this sort of cracking of the Republican Party. There's going to be some soul searching done by some of these people who have stayed silent. Okay, those are the ones that are actually the problem. The wingbats who are yelling and screaming like the Gateses, et cetera, we know what they're saying. It's all the other ones that are just got nothing to say about nothing all of a sudden. Those are the ones I think that are going to be doing some soul searching, and they may even be the ones who try to find a way to find a balance, temperate things a little bit. It comes right down to it. A lot of politicians in the GOP are really, really going to have to make a choice. They're going to have to stand for something, or they're going to stand for nothing. We shall see. We shall see. So it looks like that's kind of going to be the strategy for the GOP. It feels very much like they are kind of about let's distract, and listen, Fox News isn't going to carry this. And frankly, that's horrible. Except considering the fact that Hannity's name came up, I don't know, within the first half an hour, with text messages saying that, what was going on was ridiculous, it had to be stopped, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I guess Fox News doesn't really want that coming out over their airwaves. And if I just said the word Fox News, I really just meant Fox, because they don't do news. They really don't. All right. Let's take a look at the people of America. How is this information going to be received by the people, the citizens? Here we go. Hearing info citizens, hearing info citizens, hearing info citizens. Before I forget, thank you to my new subscribers. Thank you for the comments. Some people that I have done private readings for have left some really lovely, lovely comments in the comment section about their private readings, and I'm very grateful for that, and I thank you for that. If you're interested, there is information in the box below. I also want to say that last week and this week, I have put out, this will be the third video that goes out this week on the Insights channel pertaining to, on the Tarot channel pertaining to, stuff going on with the government. If you somehow have missed a couple of those, I encourage you to go back and take a look at them. The one that came out earlier this week, kind of in the middle of the week, was about Georgia. And of course, the way to make sure you don't miss anything is to hit the notification bell beside the word subscription. Okay. Interesting. Oh, okay. So this is kind of a thing. It looks like, now listen, let's not expect miracles falling out of pockets, okay? But what it feels like energetically is that by time this wraps up, you're going to see, frankly, more and more people paying attention. I mean, in part, like, I don't know how people's local news channels are handling this, particularly even in red states. But to some degree, this information is going to get out, and people are going to start looking from it. There's always going to be those that turn away. Always, always going to be those that turn away and say it's BS and it's a lie and whatever else they mutter and whine about. But it looks as if there's actually going to be quite a receptive audience. And as things move along, you're going to see just that the sheer volume of information and the clarity with which it will be delivered actually looks like it could cause some people to really sort of rethink where they're at. So this is sort of the way I see it. One of the things that Trump did was he gave permission for people to sort of act their worst. I mean, one of the things that struck me yesterday as as I was watching the video from the crowds was how angry. Oh my God, how angry those people were. I have to tell you, I don't think I've ever been that angry about anything in my entire life as these people were about a lie. Trump made it perfectly acceptable for people to be angry and aggressive and in your face. But I don't think that you can say that that's a behavior that is common or typical of every single Republican voter out there. And so I think what you're going to see in some areas is this sense of people really starting to sort of take a look at this information because it's going to go on week after week after week. And that's important, right? Because you saturate people with it. But it feels as if there's going to be those, right? There's going to be those that just refuse to hear it, refuse to accept it, turn away from the information. But it actually looks like there could be more people, I think, than we expect at this point in time, maybe, to sort of tune in and start paying attention. I think part of what's going to happen is there's going to be, oh my goodness, look at this. The Five of Swords, the Eight of Swords, the Ten of Swords. So it feels as if, for the first time, people are going to actually get a real cohesive story, right? For those of us who sort of are political junkies, we've been following this thing painstakingly since literally, the election, right? For a lot of people, though, it's going to be completely off their radar. And I think as the information continues to come out and they understand that the election was not stolen, that was a whole big lie that was told to allow a leader, and I use the term loosely, who lost an election, who just didn't want to leave office and just simply thought that if he just said no, it would be okay. And honestly, let's face it, look at all the stuff that Trump said or Republicans said no to, and they got away with it in the 4 or 5 years that Trump was running around. So you can kind of understand where on some level he just decided that saying no would be enough. He didn't like the results, and so therefore no, he just wasn't going to leave. But for people who are now just starting to click into this information because they haven't been paying attention because they've been really busy dealing with their life and gas prices and COVID and kids in school and life, what they're going to get now is a really, really cohesive story. And it's sort of like brick by brick by brick. This presentation is going to be built until it becomes a wall of information, and either you have to close your eyes or go around it or try to jump over it to ignore it. So it really does feel that there are going to be people who are going to actually be quite horrified by how close the country came. And I don't think we've even begun to scratch the surface of exactly how close that was. Okay. But definitely looks like there's going to be, information out there. So, yeah, as that unfolds, you're going to see Republicans throwing more and more money into their campaigns. They're going to be throwing more stuff against the wall to see if it'll stick, because this situation isn't going away quickly. Now the lid has been taken off the box, okay? And now all the stuff in the box is being released. Is it perhaps a Pandora's box? Once it's out, it can't get put back in? Maybe. Maybe. Right. And let's take a look at the Donald, shall we? How's he doing this morning? I imagine yesterday his blood pressure was probably up somewhere, around the level of clouds, okay? Because this is the thing. And listen, I really believe, I think it was his niece that said that Trump is the only person she knows who can gaslight himself. And I really believe that by this point in time, a year and a half after the fact, Trump really believes the garbage he's been spewing for the most part. I think he believes it because it strokes his ego, and he believes it because he realizes that that's what he uses to hold on to whatever power he has. And so I think that as that stuff gets presented, and he's sort of almost reminded, if you will, of what actually went on. I think he's going to become a little bit unhinged. I think the fact that on the very first presentation, they had, look at, there's justice on the bottom. They had Ivanka very clearly saying, well, you know what? I believe Bill Barr. I just did. And of course, there's that new reporting coming out that literally before the presidency was called for Joe Biden, like before, Ivanka and Jared were already pulling back because they realized that, the writing was sort of on the wall, and he wasn't going to win the election. And, they started pulling back and pulling up and kind of getting, okay. So you got world and got levers. Okay, so partnerships are coming to an end over this. All right. And I believe those are partnerships connected to Trump. Okay, so let's take a look and see how the Donald is doing today. How's Donald doing? How's Donald doing? How's Donald doing? Okay, I'm stepping into his energy, and oh boy, is he ever angry. And it's not only that he's angry, it feels irrational, it feels out of control. He is starting to maybe realize that he really sort of is being left out in the cold here. that all of this information is going to come out, all of it. And he knows that there is a certain percentage of people that he can rely on to just only listen to his voice, who choose not to believe their lying eyes. He can count on them to continue to send him money and support him. But I mean, honestly, from what I can gather, his rallies are doing really crappy. And so apparently even that support is sort of wanting. And let's face it, I honestly have always believed that part of the reason that Trump was sort of popular the way he was is because people started to view the presidency as a sitcom. You know? They started to view it as this television show. And he was, I guess, a certain percentage of people, a familiar face. Um, but eventually, eventually, you know, sitcoms can kind of lose their appeal, right? And I think that that's part of what he's really worrying about right now. He is stressed. Wow, like honestly, is there like a stroke or a heart attack about to happen to this guy? I don't know. I'm just saying, with the kind of blood pressure he seems to be experiencing, like, wow. Um, This card is interesting, because the Three of Cups is often sort of about celebrations, whatever. You know who's going to be celebrating when this is all said and done? Female prosecutors. That's who is going to be celebrating. And that is who he is actually more scared of. Because while the January 6th information is provocative, it is insightful, it's terrifying, they can only make recommendations to the Department of Justice. And how fast or not fast the Department of Justice reacts, we know that they're investigating, okay? We know that. But, just like the January 6th committee, we wanted all of this information out a year and a half ago. Well, it doesn't work that way. So he thinks that he can actually buy time with the information coming out of the January 6th committee. He thinks that, there's going to be kind of a push, if you will, to not kind of go after people right before an election coming up in November. There's sort of that kind of, maybe I can let some of this slide, people will forget, da, 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 da. But those prosecutors, they scare him and they're coming after him and he knows it. You can expect a couple things. You can expect him to be rattling off his usual insanity. And you can also expect more and more information coming out really, really quickly. And so there's going to be a bombardment happening of information coming out against him. And he's scared. He really is. And he's gonna, I was gonna say he's gonna do what he can, but really all he's gonna do is yell at people to do what he wants them to do to fix this. I don't see this as fixable. I really don't. I think that he is just starting to realize that he could actually really be in some significant trouble here. But whoa, is he ever angry? Wow. And even his children, and now I'm talking about the two sons, two older sons, are seeing the writing on the wall. Now, are they going to abandon him? Don Jr. probably not so quickly. I think Eric may sooner than later, simply because it is their livelihood that is on the line, and it is the family name, and it is et cetera, et cetera. And so I wouldn't be surprised actually to see them starting to pull away themselves because they're starting to recognize that carrying the Trump name is going to be a much bigger burden than they thought. And let's not forget, there are business investigations going on. And that's going to be a big problem for them going forward because let's face it, I mean, in my humble opinion, these people actually don't have any marketable skills except failure. I said last night as the hearings were wrapping up that it's really kind of beyond ironic that the one thing Donald Trump was successful at, I'm pretty sure in his entire career, because God knows he was a business failure, he was a failure as a dad, as a husband, as a businessman. The one thing that he actually was successful at was insurrection. Because, man, if anybody believes that he didn't know what was going on as it was going on, they're a fool. And they're believing their lying eyes because he absolutely knew. What I'm saying is, over a course of time, he started to believe the lie. But in the beginning, he absolutely knew it was crap, and he was selling it by the bucket load. So this is kind of the thing. It's interesting because in some ways, he's starting to recognize that he may very well have to like walk away. And there's some calculations going on. I don't know if it's going on just with him or with people around him to try to figure out how to balance or counterbalance the news and the information that's coming out. I don't think they're going to be very successful. I think ultimately that man is going to have a real run of bad luck when judgments start falling on him. And they're not going to stop. They're going to keep on coming. They're going to keep on coming. And he's going to become more and more emotional and more kind of crazy. And that which he depended on for his strength, that's going to continue to diminish. And what was that? Well, that was gullible people who wanted to believe him. Okay. So here we are, Friday. Don't forget that tomorrow morning, the Pick Your Crystal Weekly readings will be released. Have a really good weekend. Yesterday was a lot to absorb. It feels sort of like, in some ways, we're almost going to have to start going through bits and pieces of it to actually grasp some of the really interesting information. I mean, one of the big ones was about how the Proud Boys were already at the Hill at 10:30 in the morning. They had no intentions actually of being at the ellipse. That's interesting. We need to be able to process what that actually means. Okay. So, but in the midst of the processing, take some time, enjoy the sunshine, get out in the weather, watch a funny movie, do whatever it is you need to do because there is a lot coming. And frankly, we need to pay attention, but we also need to sort of pull away from it long enough to just give ourselves a little bit of a break. Okay. So do that. Take the time and hang in there. I got a request from somebody, a lady named Rita, who wants me to do a reading on kind of democracy and kind of, is there some higher force, I guess, who was kind of saying, you guys can't handle this. Maybe we're just going to give up on democracy on the planet Earth. So I'm going to be doing a reading on that early next week. I don't think that's the case. In fact, I think, if anything, We are proving with light and energy work and prayers and physical action that no, we are not going to allow democracy to be shoved aside. Think about Ukraine. Think about countries that embraced the likes of Donald Trump, who are now having trouble with their leaders who embraced Donald Trump. Boris Johnson comes to mind. So does Jason Kenney here in Alberta. Okay. Have a good one, people. Until next time, take care. Be well. I'll see you really soon. Bye-bye.